The void of space was silent, endless, and cold. Human warship scanners usually picked up only static or faint echoes from distant stars. But on that day, a broken signal cut through the silence. Inside the command bridge of the fleet flagship Resolute Dawn, alarms pulsed across the panels. Red lights flickered, and the crew turned to their commander, Admiral Kaelen. "Admiral, we are receiving a distress call," said Communications Officer Lara. Her voice was tight. "It's old, weak, but repeating." "Source?" Kaelen asked, leaning forward in his chair. Lara looked uncertain. "Not human. The language does not match any known archive." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Unknown signals in deep space were often traps, pirates, slavers, or worse, remnants of alien fleets that still hated humanity. "Put it through," Kaelen ordered. The bridge fell into silence. Then the speakers crackled, carrying a trembling voice. "Help me, please, before they erase us all." The words were halting, broken by static, but the fear in the voice was clear. It was a child's voice. A hush spread across the bridge. Veterans who had seen death in countless battles felt their chests tighten. Kaelen frowned. "A child?" "Yes, Admiral," Lara whispered. The translator confirms. "The speaker is young," the crew began whispering. A child's distress call reaching across light years was not normal. It was either a trap or a tragedy greater than any war. Kaelen stood. "Plot a course. Find the source of this signal." "Admiral," said Tactical Officer Joran. His voice was sharp. "It could be bait. The last war nearly broke us. If this is a council trick..." Kaelen raised a hand. His face was calm but firm. "If there is even one chance this is real, we answer. Humanity does not leave children to die." The bridge crew straightened at his words. Orders were given. Engines roared to life. The Resolute Dawn and its escort ships turned toward the coordinates buried in the fading transmission. Hours passed in tense silence. The fleet cut through the black void like steel blades. On the bridge, screens filled with sensor data. Finally, the target system came into view. "Entering orbit," Lara said softly. The main screen flickered alive. Gas clouds glowed faintly against a broken starfield. And there, drifting above the burned shell of a moon, floated wreckage. The ruins of warships, massive and twisted, hung like corpses in the void. Their hulls were alien, sharp-edged, covered with strange symbols scorched by fire. Some still burned with faint energy, proof the battle was recent. "Gods," whispered a crewman. "What happened here?" Kaelen's eyes narrowed. "Get me closer." The fleet slowed as it entered the graveyard. Pieces of shattered cruisers bumped against each other like drifting bones. Fires sputtered in dead engines. No life signs showed on the scans. Then Lara's console lit up. "Signal locked." "It is coming from inside the largest wreck." Kaelen gave the order. "Prepare a boarding team." The boarding shuttle cut through the wreckage field. Inside it, armored Marines checked their rifles. Their faces were grim. They knew alien ruins well. Many still remembered the wars where humanity was nearly crushed. The shuttle locked onto the wreck side with a loud thud. The hatch hissed open, revealing dark corridors littered with debris. "Move!" the Marine captain barked. Their boots clanged on metal floors as lights from their helmets swept across scorched walls. Signs of battle were everywhere. Burn marks, shattered consoles, bodies frozen in death. The deeper they went, the stronger the faint beacon pulsed. At last, they reached a sealed chamber. The walls bore strange symbols, glowing faintly in the dark. "There," a Marine said, pointing. A small pod was wedged into the floor. It was intact, shielded by layers of alien alloy. The signal came from inside. The Marines forced the locks. Steam hissed out. Slowly the pod opened. Inside was a child, small, fragile, skin pale blue, eyes wide with fear. The child clutched a glowing crystal in both hands, refusing to let go. The Marines froze, staring. None had expected the distress call to be real. "Easy," the captain said softly. He lowered his weapon. "We're here to help." The child's lips trembled. "They will come," the voice whispered barely above a breath. "They always come." On the Resolute Dawn, Kaelen listened to the report in silence. A living child. the only survivor of a slaughtered fleet carrying something unknown. He looked at the screen showing the wreckage outside. His gut told him this was only the beginning. "Bring them aboard," he ordered. As the shuttle returned, the ship's sensors began to scream. Multiple warp signatures were closing in fast. "Admiral," Tactical Officer Joran said, his face pale. "Fleet incoming, big one. They are coming straight for us." Kaelen rose slowly. His jaw tightened. Red alert. All ships battle ready. The crew scrambled. The decks shook as power surged through the warship's veins. Outside, the stars twisted as massive alien ships tore into real space. Their weapons lit up, targeting one thing only, the pod holding the child. On the bridge, Kaelen's voice was calm but sharp. "Humanity does not run. Protect that child." The stars filled with fire as the battle began. The stars outside the Resolute Dawn blazed with hostile fire. Alien ships burst from warp, sharp and angular, their hulls marked with crimson banners. Weapons locked instantly on the shuttle carrying the child. "Shields up!" Admiral Kaelen's command echoed through the bridge. The warship shuddered as the first blast struck. Energy waves rippled across the shield barrier, but it held. "Return fire!" Human warships roared to life. Plasma cannons spat bright fire, tearing through the void. Explosions ripped across the alien fleet, but more ships kept pouring in. On the hangar deck, the shuttle slammed onto the platform. Marines rushed out, carrying the pod and the small figure inside. Sirens blared, red lights spinning across the steel walls. The alien child clutched the glowing crystal tight against its chest. Its wide eyes darted around, full of fear. "Move!" the Marine captain barked. "Get them to the Admiral." On the bridge, the main screen lit with burning wreckage as both fleets clashed. Human destroyers twisted and rolled, firing torpedoes at close range. Alien beams cut through one frigate, splitting it in two. Screams filled the comms before silence swallowed them. "They are not targeting our engines," Joran, the tactical officer, shouted. "Every shot is aimed at the hangar bay. They want the child." Kaelen's jaw tightened. "Then they will have to go through us." The doors slid open. Marines entered with the child. The bridge crew turned. For a moment, silence fell across the room. The child stood small and fragile against the storm outside. Pale blue skin shimmered faintly under the bridge lights. The eyes, bright and sorrowful, looked far older than any child's should. Kaelen stepped forward. "I am Admiral Dross of the human fleet. You sent the signal?" The child nodded weakly. The voice was soft but clear. "You heard me." "You came?" "Yes," Kaelen said firmly. "You are safe now." The child shook their head. "No one is safe. They will not stop." A violent blast rocked the Resolute Dawn. Sparks rained across the bridge. Warning sirens screamed. "Admiral!" Joran shouted. "2 destroyers down. We cannot hold this line for long." Kaelen turned to the child. "Who are they? Why are they hunting you?" The child's small hands trembled as they lifted the crystal. "They hunt not me, but this." The crystal glowed brighter as the child held it up. Strange alien script shimmered in the air above it, shifting symbols that none of the human translators could match. Kaelen narrowed his eyes. "What is it?" The child's voice cracked. "Proof. Secrets they killed my people to hide. If it is revealed, their empire falls. That is why they erased us. That is why I am the last." The bridge crew froze. Even hardened veterans felt the weight of those words. The child was not simply a survivor. They carried something that could shatter the galaxy. Outside, the alien fleet pressed harder. Massive dreadnoughts advanced, beams slamming against human shields. The Resolute Dawn groaned as another impact rattled its hull. "Admiral, we cannot hold much longer," Joran shouted. Kaelen stood tall. "Then we do not hold. We move." He turned to navigation. "Plot an escape route. Jump drive ready." The navigator's hands flew across the console. Coordinates locked. 30 seconds to charge. The child's eyes widened. "You cannot stay. If they capture me, everything ends. You must take me far. Guide me." Kaelen crouched slightly to meet the child's gaze. His voice was steady. "Listen to me. Humanity does not abandon those in need. They will not take you. Not while I live." The child's lips trembled. For the first time, A faint spark of trust flickered in their eyes. The jump drive began to hum. Outside, alien dreadnoughts surged forward, realizing what was happening. Their weapons blazed, pouring everything into the human flagship. The Resolute Dawn shook violently. Consoles burst into sparks. A crew member screamed as smoke filled the bridge. "Drive at 90%, the navigator cried. "We need more time." "They will not give us time," Joran growled. Kaelen's voice cut through the chaos. "All ships, form a shield wall around us. Sacrifice if you must. Protect the drive." Human warships answered without hesitation. Frigates dove between alien cannons and the flagship, their hulls burning under relentless fire. Destroyers rammed into enemy cruisers, locking them in place with suicidal fury. The bridge crew watched the sacrifice unfold on screen. Humanity's fleet bled, but it bought them precious seconds. 95% alien dreadnoughts closed in, their weapons charging for a final strike aimed directly at the Resolute Dawn's bridge. The child's small voice whispered, almost too soft to hear, "They are not after me. They are after what I carry, the key to ending them." Kaelen looked into the child's glowing eyes. His gut twisted. He had no idea what power the crystal truly held, but he knew one thing: humanity was now bound to it. The navigator shouted, "Jump drive charged!" Kaelen roared, "Engage!" Light consumed the bridge. The stars stretched and tore as the Resolute Dawn leapt into the void. When the light faded, the fleet floated in empty space. Silence replaced the thunder of battle. Half their ships were gone. The survivors drifted scarred and broken, shields flickering weakly. But they had escaped. On the bridge, the child still held the crystal. Its glow pulsed like a heartbeat. Kaelen exhaled slowly. "We live, for now." The child raised their eyes. "Admiral, you do not understand. This is only the beginning." The crystal flared brighter. Data began to spill across the bridge's main screen. Unknown maps, hidden codes, names of entire species lost to history. Kaelen felt a cold weight settle in his chest. Whatever this was, it was far bigger than a simple rescue and far deadlier. The Resolute Dawn floated in the silence of deep space. Its hull was scorched, its shields weakened, and half its escort fleet gone. The survivors worked feverishly, patching breaches, sealing burns, and dragging wounded to medbays. On the bridge, the air was heavy. The crew moved with tense urgency, but their eyes often drifted toward the small figure standing quietly near Admiral Kaelen's chair, the alien child. The last of their kind. They held the glowing crystal close, as though it was the only thing keeping them alive. Kaelen studied them. He had fought wars, lost comrades, seen Earth burn under alien bombardment, but nothing unnerved him more than a child carrying something powerful enough to terrify an empire. Before he could speak, the sensors shrieked. "Admiral," Joran barked, eyes wide. "Warp signatures detected multiple. They found us." Kaelen's jaw tightened. "How many?" The tactical officer's voice dropped. "At least 20. No, 30 ships, heavy class. They dropped right on our trail." The bridge crew froze. Their escape had lasted less than an hour. The hunters were relentless. "Contact incoming," Lyra said. Her voice shook. The screen flared alive. An alien commander appeared. Their face cold and rigid with sharp ridges along the skin. Their eyes glowed with cruel satisfaction. "Humans," the alien hissed. "You are protecting an exile. That child is forbidden. End it over, and we may let you crawl back to your dying world." Kaelen stepped forward, his voice steady. "You slaughtered their people. You chased a child across the stars. If you think humanity will bow, you have learned nothing of us." The alien's expression twisted into a mocking smile. "Then you will share their fate." The transmission cut. Enemy weapons charged. Space lit up in fire. Human ships scrambled into formation, shields flaring as alien beams struck. The Resolute Dawn fired its heavy cannons, lances of plasma ripping through an enemy cruiser. Explosions scattered wreckage across the void, but the enemy had numbers. They came in waves, circling like wolves. In the chaos, the alien child clutched the crystal tighter. Their voice trembled, yet it carried a strange strength. "They are not after you. They are after this. They must destroy it before anyone learns the truth. Kaelen turned sharply. What truth? The child's wide eyes glistened. The Council's crimes. They erased my people. They erased others too. Entire species vanished. Their names are hidden inside this crystal. If revealed, their empire falls apart. The crew stiffened. Whispers rippled through the bridge. This was no ordinary relic. It was a weapon of knowledge. Joran swore under his breath. Admiral, this is worse than we thought. They will never stop. Not until the child is dead and the crystal destroyed. Kaelen's voice was like steel. Then we give them a reason to fear us. Outside, the battle raged. Human destroyers darted between dreadnoughts, firing torpedoes point blank. Alien cruisers retaliated, cutting ships apart with ruthless precision. One human frigate rammed head-on into an enemy ship, detonating its reactor. The explosion tore both vessels into burning fragments. Losses mounting, Joran shouted. We cannot keep trading like this. Kaelen's mind raced. Retreat again? No, the enemy would follow again and again. They needed something more. Something decisive. Then the child spoke, voice urgent. The crystal holds more than names. It holds maps, safe paths, old stations where weapons sleep. My people found them. That is why we were erased. The words hit Kaelen like a hammer. Weapons? Yes, the child whispered. Warships built before the Council, buried, forgotten. If we reach them, you can fight. You can win. The bridge fell silent. Humanity had bled through countless wars, always fighting with smaller fleets, always outnumbered. But hidden weapons, ships of power equal to the enemy's dreadnoughts, could change everything. Coordinates? Kaelen asked quickly. The child touched the crystal. Symbols danced in the air, shifting into a star map. A red mark glowed faintly, far beyond human borders. Kaelen's heart pounded. Hope flickered, fragile but real. Admiral, Joran interrupted, his voice hard. We won't live long enough to get there. Their fleet is pressing us into a corner. Kaelen's gaze hardened. Then we break the corner. He turned to comms. Signal the fleet. Full assault. Every gun, every torpedo. Open the path to those coordinates. We fight to escape, not to win, Lyra hesitated. Sir, many will not make it. Kaelen's eyes burned. They know the risk. Humanity has never feared sacrifice. The fleet roared forward. Human ships hurled themselves into the enemy line. Plasma blasts cut through alien hulls. Torpedoes streaked across the void, detonating in blinding fire. Enemy dreadnoughts answered with brutal fury, tearing through human frigates like paper. Screams filled the comms, yet the survivors kept pushing, clawing open a path. On the bridge, Kaelen gripped the arm of his chair. Hold the line! Keep that path open. The child's small hand touched his arm. You fight like my people did before they fell. That is why you must succeed. If you fall, all hope dies. Kaelen's jaw tightened. Then hope will live. On my oath. The Resolute Dawn broke through the enemy line, engines burning hot. Behind it, what remained of the human fleet followed, battered but alive. The alien ships twisted to pursue. Jump drive charging, the navigator shouted. Enemy weapons locked again. Energy flared. 20 seconds, the navigator cried. Kaelen stared at the incoming fire. If their shields failed now, it was over. The child's crystal pulsed brighter, flooding the bridge with light. The child whispered, almost in prayer, "Guide us!" The alien fleet fired, the bridge crew braced. Jump drive ready. Engage! Kaelen roared. The Resolute Dawn vanished into light, slipping away just as a wave of enemy fire tore through empty space. Silence fell again. The fleet emerged, battered, bleeding, but alive. On the bridge, Kaelen stared at the glowing map on the screen. The marked coordinates seemed impossibly far. But it was the only chance. The child whispered, "If you reach it, you will have the power to fight them, to end them." Kaelen's eyes were cold and sharp. Then we will reach it. No matter what it costs, the jump was rough. The Resolute Dawn dropped into dark space, far from any star. The battered fleet drifted silently, shields flickering, hulls torn and scorched. Every ship carried scars of the last battle. On the bridge, the crew worked in grim silence. Repairs were underway, but the mood was heavy. Too many ships were gone. Too many names would never return to Earth. Admiral Kaelen stood at the center, eyes locked on the small figure near his chair. The alien child still clutched the glowing crystal, the strange light pulsing like a heartbeat. Before anyone could speak, the crystal flared on its own. Symbols rose into the air, lines of alien code flowing like rivers across the main display. The bridge lights dimmed as the crystal's data took over the screens. "Admiral," Lyra said, her voice trembling. "It's rewriting our systems. Forcing a data link, can we control it?" Joran barked. Lyra shook her head. "No, it's opening itself. It wants to be read." The child stepped forward, their voice soft but steady. "It knows you now. It will show you." The screen filled with images, worlds, dozens of alien worlds, some thriving with cities and fleets, others reduced to barren rocks. Ash swirled over cracked surfaces where life had once been. Each world was tagged with strange council markings, dates, decrees, reasons. Lyra whispered, her eyes wide. "These are exterminations." Species after species appeared. Vibrant cultures erased. Whole civilizations struck from history. The child's voice shook. "My people discovered this. We wanted to speak it to the galaxy. The council silenced us. They came with fleets, burned our skies. Every child, every elder, every voice, gone. I am the last." The bridge crew stared in horrified silence. Even veterans who had seen human cities fall in war clenched their fists at the sight of such deliberate destruction. Joran muttered through his teeth. "The council hid all of this. They built their empire on bones." Kaelen's voice was low, cold. "And now they fear exposure." The crystal pulsed again. New data appeared, schematics of strange ships, enormous and ancient, weapons the size of cities. "Gods," whispered Lyra. "These designs are older than their empire." "They buried them," the child nodded. "Yes, they locked away the weapons of the first wars. My people found fragments. We decoded them. That is why they erased us. The council cannot allow anyone else to hold this knowledge." The bridge shook as if the ship itself trembled at the revelation. Humanity had always been the underdog, fighting with smaller fleets and less firepower. Now for the first time, there was a path to balance the scales, but Kaelen's instincts told him there was more. "What else does it hide?" he asked. The child touched the crystal. The glow deepened. More maps unfolded, routes through hidden systems, coordinates to vaults, stations, caches of forbidden knowledge. Then, abruptly, the screens darkened. The map froze. "Admiral," Lyra said urgently, "a lock. The data is sealed behind an encryption complex. It won't open easily." Kaelen turned to the child. "Can you break it?" The child's face was pale. "I can, but it will take time. The crystal was made to resist even the council's tools. If I open it, they will feel it." "They'll know," Joran muttered. "They'll know where we are." The bridge went quiet. Every officer understood the risk. Humanity was already hunted. If the council locked on their location again, the next fleet would be larger, and Earth was only one jump away. Kaelen stepped closer to the child. His voice was steady, commanding. "If we open it, what will we find?" The child's eyes glistened. "The key, not just weapons. A way to break their control, a way to end them." Kaelen turned slowly, his gaze sweeping the bridge. He saw fear in his crew's eyes, but also fire. Humanity had suffered enough, always outnumbered, always dismissed by the council, always treated as less. Now the truth was in their hands. He nodded once. "Then we open it." The child placed both hands on the crystal. The glow spread, brighter and brighter, flooding the bridge with harsh white light. Symbols cascaded across the screens faster than human eyes could follow. "Admiral!" Lyra shouted. "Signal spike!" "The crystal is broadcasting something." Joran's head snapped up. "To who?" Lyra's face went pale. "Everywhere. It's sending coordinates. Directly to the council." The bridge fell into stunned silence. Kaelen's heart sank. "What coordinates?" Lyra's voice broke. "Ours, Admiral. They know we're here." The deck vibrated violently as sensors screamed. "Multiple warp signatures incoming." Joran roared. "Dozens, no hundreds. The council fleet is already on the way." On the main screen, the starfield began to twist. Space itself rippled as enormous ships tore through reality. Their hulls glistened with dark metal, weapons glowing like suns. Kaelen clenched his fists, his voice calm despite the storm outside. All ships prepare for contact. The child looked up, terror in their eyes. It is too soon. They should not have found us this fast. The crystal, it betrayed us. Kaelen shook his head, steel in his tone. No, they betrayed you first. Humanity will not run. The fleet around them shuddered as the first alien warships emerged, lining up in endless rows. Kaelen's voice cut through the silence. Then we fight. For Earth, for truth, for the child. The stars outside burned with the fire of war as the Council's fleet descended. The alien fleet filled the stars like a wall of steel. The Resolute Dawn and its battered escorts braced for impact. Weapons charged, shields strained, and the crew held their breath as the Council warships closed in. But before the first shot was fired, a transmission cut through the void. The Council's emblem glowed on the main screen, followed by the face of a high speaker, pale-skinned, eyes black as the void, voice dripping with authority. "Humans," the alien said coldly, "you have taken what is forbidden. You shelter an exile marked for erasure. For this crime, you are guilty of rebellion against the Council itself." Kaelen stood tall. His crew, bloodied but unbroken, looked to him. He answered with iron in his voice. "Humanity bows to no tyrant. If guilt is defiance, then we are guilty." The speaker's lips curved into a thin smile. "Then your world will burn." The transmission cut. The Council fleet turned, not to crush the Resolute Dawn, but to surge toward a far more fragile prize. Their drives flared as they vanished into warp. Straight toward the solar system, the bridge fell silent. Every officer felt the weight of those words. Lyra whispered, "Earth." Joran slammed his fist against the console. "They're going to strike at the heart. They'll punish us through our home." Kaelen's jaw tightened. He saw it clearly in his mind. Blue oceans, green continents, cities shining with light, all under threat of fire. The child clutched the crystal, their small voice breaking. "I never wanted this. I only wanted someone to listen." Kaelen crouched to meet the child's eyes. His voice was steady, even as the void outside screamed with danger. "You did nothing wrong. They fear you because you carry the truth. But if Earth must burn for it, humanity will make sure the galaxy remembers who lit the fire." He rose sharply. "Helm, set course for Sul. Maximum drive." "Aye, Admiral," the navigator answered, hands flying across the console. The fleet turned, engines roaring. The stars streaked as they leapt toward home. The solar system was not quiet when they arrived. The moment the Resolute Dawn dropped from warp, alarms echoed across the ship. Mars' orbit burned. Human defense fleets were already clashing with advanced waves of alien destroyers. Red fire lit the skies as debris fields grew around the red planet. Earth itself was preparing. Orbital shipyards glowed as new battleships launched into the black. Civilian transports streamed away from Earth and Luna, carrying families to deep shelters. Defense grids came online, satellites flaring like steel guardians across the void. But for every human ship that rose, 5 alien ships bore down on the system. On the bridge, Joren's voice was grim. "Their fleet is massive, far larger than what we faced. This is not punishment. This is extermination." Kaelen's eyes were cold. "Then let them come. We will not surrender our home." The Council fleet arrived in waves. Giant dreadnoughts appeared at the edge of the system, their hulls blotting out the stars. Each one carried enough firepower to shatter a continent. Earth's defenders held position, shields flaring, weapons locked. The first clash came in the asteroid belt. Human frigates and carriers swarmed from hidden bases, ambushing the alien vanguard. Explosions lit the belt as rocks shattered and ships burned, but the aliens pressed through. By the time they reached Mars' orbit, the system was drowning in fire. On Earth, fear spread like wildfire. In cities across the globe, people crowded under sky domes and into shelters as news screens played the same message again and again. The Alien Council declares humanity guilty of rebellion. Earth is marked, but even in fear, something else stirred. Across the planet, humans raised banners of resistance. Soldiers marched, engineers worked without rest, pilots swore their lives to the defense of their homeworld. Humanity had faced extinction before. This time, they were ready. On the Resolute Dawn's bridge, the child stared at Earth glowing on the main screen, blue and beautiful. "They will not stop," the child whispered. "They will burn it all to silence me." Kaelen's voice was calm, but his eyes burned with fire. "Then we silence them first." He turned to his officers. "Signal every fleet. Earth is the line. We stand or we fall together." Lyra's hands flew over controls. "Transmitting now." Across the system, human ships received the message. A single call echoed through every deck, every soldier, every pilot. For Earth, for humanity. The Council dreadnoughts closed in. The first volley shook the solar system. Alien beams carved through Mars' defenses, turning steel and rock into molten clouds. Human destroyers answered with torpedoes, tearing holes in the enemy wall. The void itself became a storm of fire. On the Resolute Dawn, Kaelen gripped the command chair. Target their lead ship. Break their line! Plasma lances tore across the dark. Explosions bloomed like suns. The human fleet, outnumbered, fought with savage fury. But as the battle raged, Lyra's console screamed with fresh alerts. Her face went pale. "Admiral, new warp signatures. Larger than before? They're not just sending a fleet. They're sending the Council's armada." Kaelen froze for a heartbeat. Then he stood tall. Then let history remember Earth as the place humanity chose to stand. The child clutched the crystal tighter, tears shining in their alien eyes. "You cannot win this battle." Kaelen's voice was steady like steel. "Maybe not. But we will show them that humanity will never kneel." The stars lit with fire as Earth's greatest battle began. The stars above Earth blazed with fire. The solar system shook under the weight of war. Alien warships filled the void, a tide of steel and fury crashing against humanity's desperate defense lines. On the Resolute Dawn, alarms screamed. The crew held their stations, sweat on their brows, hands locked on weapons and shields, but then came the voice of the alien high speaker again, cutting through every frequency. "Humans, you brought this war upon yourselves. You sheltered the forbidden child. You rejected our mercy. Now your species will be erased, your world turned to ash. The galaxy will forget you ever existed." His voice carried across ships and cities, poisoning the minds of those who listened. Yet on Earth, the people did not cower. The message repeated across screens, but crowds shouted back in defiance. Soldiers raised their rifles to the sky. Families clung to one another and swore they would not bow. This war was not theirs to start, but it would be theirs to finish. The first wave hit Mars' defenses with brutal force. Alien dreadnoughts, vast as mountains, unleashed beams that carved ships into fire. Human cruisers tried to hold, darting between debris, firing torpedoes into exposed weak points. The asteroid belt lit up like a battlefield of dying suns. "Admiral!" Lyra shouted on the bridge. "Second wave incoming!" More signatures dropping from warp. Kaelen's hands tightened on the command chair. "Form up on Earth defense grid. Pull back our scattered ships. If we scatter further, we'll be crushed one by one." Joran gritted his teeth. "We're already being crushed." Kaelen's eyes burned cold. "Not yet." Earth's orbit turned into a fortress. Orbital cannons fired rail slugs that tore through alien armor. New dreadnoughts, fresh from Luna's shipyards, joined the fight, their hulls still bearing scaffolding marks. Every ship mattered, but the enemy armada was endless. They advanced in perfect formation, cutting down defenders with clinical precision. For every alien ship destroyed, 2 more arrived. The Resolute Dawn darted through fire, shields flaring, weapons blazing. At her side, smaller human frigates sacrificed themselves to cover her flanks, burning in silence, but leaving trails of wreckage in their wake. The child clung to the crystal at the center of the bridge, eyes wide with sorrow. "They will not stop," the child whispered. "They will burn everything. They will not leave even ruins." Kaelen's gaze softened for a moment, but his voice stayed iron. "Then we will make their victory cost more than they can pay." On Earth, bunkers filled, Across continents, humans waited under the shadow of alien death. But they were not silent. From New York to Cairo, from Delhi to Rio, voices sang and shouted, "We are not prey. We are not forgotten." Broadcasts from the surface were relayed into space, reaching every human ship. Pilots heard the voices of children. Engineers heard the chants of their families. Soldiers heard the roar of their people. And humanity fought harder. The battle turned into chaos near Earth's moon. Alien cruisers pushed through, firing on orbital cities. Civilians screamed as habitats were torn apart. Joran's voice shook with fury. "They're targeting civilians now." Kaelen slammed his fist. "Redirect fire. Protect the habitats." The Resolute Dawn plunged into the heart of the alien assault, her guns tearing through enemy hulls. Explosions lit her path, but the alien fleet was merciless. For every ship Kaelen destroyed, more civilians died. Whole colonies on Luna burned under the alien onslaught. Lera's voice cracked. "Admiral, we cannot hold. They are bleeding us dry." Kaelen's eyes darkened. "Then we make them bleed too." At that moment, the child's voice rose, trembling but strong. "The crystal is not just a key. It holds a signal. If I open it, it will awaken something the Council fears." The bridge fell silent. Every officer turned. Kaelen stepped closer. "What kind of signal?" The child shook their head. "I do not know. I was never told. Only that the Council hunts it because it could break them." Silence hung heavy, broken only by the thunder of battle outside. Lera whispered, "Admiral, this could be our only chance," Joran growled. "Or our end." Kaelen's mind raced. The choice was before him. Trust the unknown power of a child's crystal, or fight on until Earth itself was nothing but ash. He looked at the child. "If we use it, can you control it?" The child's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know." Outside, the alien armada gathered for a final strike. Their dreadnoughts moved into firing position, their weapons aligning on Earth itself. Sensors blared warnings across the bridge. "Admiral," Lera cried, "they're targeting the planet. They mean to burn Earth in one shot." Kaelen stood tall, the decision heavy in his chest. His voice rang across the bridge. "We either die fighting, or we open the crystal and risk everything." The crew turned toward him, waiting, breathless. The child raised the crystal, its light pulsing like a heartbeat, waiting to be unleashed. Kaelen's hand hovered, ready to give the order. Outside, alien weapons charged, gathering power to turn Earth into fire. The bridge shook with alarms. "Admiral!" Joran shouted. "We are out of time." Kaelen's voice was steel. "Do it!" The child's fingers pressed against the crystal. It split open with a blinding light. And across the galaxy, something ancient answered. The crystal split open. A blinding wave of light erupted across the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, flooding every corner of the ship. Alarms flickered, then went silent. For a heartbeat, the void outside froze, as though the universe itself held its breath. Then the signal spread. It poured through the comm relays, raced along subspace channels, and cut across the galaxy. Alien dreadnoughts paused in mid-fire, their crews writhing as the sound of the signal pierced their minds. It was not noise. It was memory. The child fell to their knees, clutching the glowing shard. "It's awake," they whispered. "The truth is awake." Kaelen shielded his eyes from the light. His crew clung to their stations, fear and awe etched across their faces. "Report!" Kaelen barked. Lera's console glowed with streams of impossible data. "Admiral, every alien vessel just received the same broadcast. It's rewriting their command orders, forcing new signals into their systems." Joran frowned. "Whose signal?" Lera looked up, her face pale. "Not theirs. Someone older." The alien fleet trembled. Their formations broke as ships veered wildly, some firing on allies, others shutting down entirely. Massive dreadnoughts that had moments ago aimed to burn Earth now spun out of control. Their weapons dimmed, but not all were crippled. The High Speaker's flagship stood tall, shields burning, its guns still charging. On every screen, his face appeared once again twisted with rage. "Humans, you do not understand what you have unleashed." That child carries the voice of the first makers, the ones who built the stars and bound the council in chains. That voice was never meant to rise again. His image flickered with static, but his words rang like knives. You will not only destroy yourselves, you will bring ruin to the galaxy. Then the signal cut. His fleet, though shaken, began to reform, pressing the assault again. On the Resolute Dawn, the child's eyes glowed faintly with the same light as the crystal. Their voice trembled, layered with something deeper, something ancient. They enslaved countless species. They erased history to hide it. The makers bound their truth inside me. They wanted someone to set it free. Kaelen's chest tightened. And now, the child lifted the shard. Now every ship in this system has heard the truth. They know the council is a lie, Lyra gasped. Admiral, look! Across the battlefield, alien ships faltered. Smaller vessels broke ranks and ceased fire. Some even turned their guns on their dreadnought masters. Confusion rippled through the armada. Joren's eyes widened. They're defecting. Some of them are joining us, but the council's core fleet did not waver. Their largest warships, the ones closest to Earth, pressed forward. They would not be swayed by truth. They were bound by fear and power. Kaelen seized the moment. His voice rang across the comms. This is Admiral Kaelen of Earth. To all who hear me, the Council enslaved you, silenced you, erased your history. Now you know. Stand with us. Stand for freedom. Stand for your own people. His words echoed across the system, carried on the same wave the crystal had unleashed, and ships answered. Alien frigates peeled away from the armada and aligned with human fleets. Broken crews raised their banners toward Earth. For the first time, humanity was not alone, but the battle was far from won. The Council dreadnoughts unleashed their fury. Massive beams of energy tore through defecting ships, silencing their rebellion in storms of fire. The flagship advanced, its superweapon glowing like a star. They mean to end this now, Lyra whispered. Kaelen's voice hardened. Then so do we. The Resolute Dawn surged forward, leading a coalition of human and alien ships against the Council's core. Explosions lit the void as fleets clashed in chaos. Inside the flagship, the High Speaker watched, his face unreadable. He turned to his generals. They have awakened what should never be spoken. If the signal spreads beyond this system, the Council's dominion will end. One general bowed low. Shall we cut the system apart, Exalted One? Burn the star itself? The High Speaker's cold smile widened. Yes, if we must, we will erase the Sol system from existence. Back on the Resolute Dawn, the child staggered. The crystal's glow dimmed as cracks spread across its surface. It's too much, the child gasped. The signal is burning out. Once it breaks, the truth will be silenced again. Kaelen crouched beside them, his voice steady even as firestorms raged outside. Can you send it further? Beyond this battle? To every world? The child shook their head. Not alone. It would kill me. Silence fell across the bridge. The crew exchanged grim glances. Joren broke it with a low growl. Admiral, if this is what ends the Council, maybe that's the price. Kaelen's gaze hardened. He looked at the child, not as a weapon, not as a burden, but as someone who had trusted him. No, he said, steel in his voice. We don't sacrifice children to win wars. Not humanity, not ever. The child's eyes widened, tears glistening, as the ship shook with another enemy barrage. But outside, the Council's flagship glowed brighter, its weapons swelling with the power to destroy Earth's sun. Lyra's console shrieked with alarms. Admiral, they're preparing a star killer shot. If they fire, the sun will collapse. The bridge froze. Joren whispered the words no one wanted to believe. They mean to kill the entire system. Kaelen rose to his full height. His voice was calm, but his eyes blazed. Then we stopped them here. Outside, the flagship's weapon reached critical charge. Light gathering like a newborn star, aimed at the heart of Sol. And in that moment, the fate of Earth balanced on the edge of annihilation. The alien flagship's weapon swelled with power, a newborn star forming at its core. Its energy grew brighter and brighter until the void itself shuddered under its fury. Lyra's console screamed warnings. Admiral, the Starkiller is seconds from firing. If it hits, Sol will collapse. Earth, everything, gone! Kaelen's heart pounded, but his voice was steady. We stop it or we all die. The crew tightened their grips, every soul on the Resolute Dawn ready to make their final stand. The child clutched the fractured crystal. Its light flickered weakly, as though dying. Tears streamed down their face. I can send the truth one last time, but it will destroy me. Kaelen knelt before them, eyes fierce. No, humanity doesn't trade lives like that. Not yours, not anyone's. The child shook their head. Then you cannot win. That weapon will erase you all. Kaelen rose, his jaw set. We will not win by dying. We will win by fighting. The Resolute Dawn surged forward. Human ships and defected alien allies formed a spearhead around her. Shields flaring, guns blazing. Together, they punched straight toward the flagship. Alien dreadnoughts unleashed volleys, shredding the charge. Frigates burned, cruisers cracked, but they did not break. For Earth, voices screamed across comms. For freedom! The void roared with fire as the coalition drove forward, a desperate tide against impossible odds. Inside the flagship, the High Speaker watched with cold fury. Pathetic, he hissed. They think courage will save them. His generals bowed. The weapon is ready, Exalted One. Shall we fire? The High Speaker raised his hand to give the order, but before he could speak, the ship trembled. The crystal's broken signal flared again, a whisper carried across the battlefield. Alien crews hesitated, some tearing off their command visors, their wills breaking free. And in that crack of doubt, humanity struck. The Resolute Dawn and her fleet slammed through the last defensive line. Kaelen's voice thundered. All ships target the Starkiller core. Bring it down before it fires. Rail slugs, plasma lances, and torpedoes ripped through the void, hammering the flagship's glowing weapon. Shields rippled. Armor cracked. The weapon's charge faltered, flickering like a dying sun, but it did not break. Lyra's voice shook. It's still charging. We need more firepower. Joran's eyes narrowed. And we don't have more. Kaelen's jaw tightened. Then we give everything. The Resolute Dawn dove headfirst into the flagship's guns. Enemy fire shredded her shields, tore holes in her armor, but she kept charging. On the bridge, sparks rained from consoles. Officers held their posts, bloodied but unbowed. Kaelen's eyes locked on the weapon core. Prepare ramming course, the crew gasped. Admiral, that's suicide, Lyra whispered. Kaelen's voice was iron. If Earth survives, it will be worth it. The child's voice cut through the chaos, soft but clear. No, there is another way. They raised the cracked crystal. Its light flared brighter than ever before. The Makers left one last gift inside me. Not just memory, power. Kaelen froze.
What kind of power?
The child's eyes glowed, no longer only theirs, but layered with countless voices. Enough to end them. Enough to break the Council forever. But it will burn me out. The bridge fell silent. Kaelen's fists clenched. He had sworn not to sacrifice them. Not humanity's way. But outside, the flagship's Starkiller reached its final charge. The sun itself seemed to tremble under the weapon's fury. Joren's voice cracked. Admiral, choose now. Kaelen looked into the child's glowing eyes. For a moment, he saw not an alien, not a weapon, but someone who had trusted him since the moment they were found. His voice was quiet, but unbreakable. If we use your gift, we do it together. You will not be alone. The child's lips trembled into a small, sad smile. Together then, the crystal blazed. Light surged across the ship, through every wire, every console, every heart. The Resolute Dawn became more than steel. It became a beacon. The wave burst outward. It hit the alien flagship like a hammer of the gods. The Starkiller core cracked, its energy unraveling. Dreadnoughts shattered as the truth burned through their crews. Chains that had bound minds for centuries fell away. Across the battlefield, alien ships stopped fighting. Many turned on the Council. Others fled, and the flagship, it erupted in a sun-bright explosion, tearing itself apart in silence. The shockwave rolled across the void, scattering wreckage like dust. On the Resolute Dawn, silence fell. The crew stared at the wreckage of the flagship, disbelief in their eyes. Lara whispered, "We did it. The weapon's gone. Earth is safe." But when Kaelen turned, his heart sank. The child lay still, the crystal gone, their glow fading. "Stay with us," Kaelen urged, kneeling beside them. "You're not alone, not now, not ever." The child's lips moved, barely a whisper. "You showed me humanity is different. Promise me." "You'll keep fighting." Kaelen's hand trembled as he gripped theirs. "I promise." The child's eyes closed, their light dimming into silence. The stars outside were quiet now. Earth still turned below, untouched, alive. Humanity had survived the war it never asked for. But Kaelen knew it was not the end. The Council had been struck, but not destroyed. Other fleets still waited in the galaxy, and now they would see Earth not as prey, but as the spark that defied them. Kaelen rose, his voice steady. "Signal the fleet. We stand together now. Humanity and all who seek freedom." This was only the first battle. He looked at Earth glowing in the distance, beautiful and defiant. Let the galaxy know. Humanity will never kneel. The crew stood with him, their voices rising as one. For Earth, for freedom, for humanity. And in the silence of space, where stars had witnessed the death of empires before, a new story began. Humanity had given its final answer, and the galaxy would never forget it.